Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a genuinely fascinating survival guide for the modern world, how to mentally outsmart dirty players. Look, if you've ever felt like you're out there playing by the rules while someone else is totally rigging the board behind the scenes, this is for you. We are going to break down the Machiavellian tools of the delayed response and strategic disengagement to help you take your power back. Because let's face it, we've all dealt with a toxic colleague, a manipulative friend, or someone who just constantly shifts the goalposts. Today, we figure out exactly how to handle them.
Okay, let's kick things off with a pretty hard truth from our source material. The world doesn't reward the cleanest heart, it rewards the sharpest mind. Now, to be clear right out of the gate, we're not talking about becoming cruel or manipulative yourself here. True Machiavellian strategy, at least in this context, is entirely about awareness. It's about standing upright in a room full of people who might be lying to you. Refusing to see the game doesn't remove you from it, it just makes you a pawn. You really have to know the rules of the room you're standing in if you want to survive it.
So, we first need to understand a deeply frustrating reality. Why in the world are good, transparent people consistently the primary targets for manipulators? It kind of attacks our logic, right? But the truth is, good people get targeted not because they're weak, but precisely because their goodness makes them totally predictable. Think about it. If someone always plays fair, always communicates openly, and always seeks harmony, well, their reactions are incredibly easy to anticipate.
And this dynamic right here brilliantly illustrates why that happens. Good people operate on an assumption of shared fairness. They genuinely believe the rules are mutual. Dirty players, they don't operate like that. They aren't hunting for power directly. They are hunting for patterns. While you're out there giving the benefit of the doubt and expecting human decency, they are coldly calculating exactly how far they can push your boundaries. Say you always answer work emails instantly, even on weekends, or you're always the first to apologize just to keep the peace. They notice that. Your consistency is quite literally their map for exploitation. To counter this predictability, you have to adopt a tactic known as strategic ambiguity. The core idea here is incredibly liberating, honestly. It means you simply do not owe a clear, consistent version of yourself to people who haven't earned your trust. You don't need to compromise your internal morals, absolutely not. But you must change what you reveal externally to those who are just collecting data to use against you. It's like a giant puzzle, and you're just keeping a few of the pieces in your pocket. If they can't read your limits, they can't cross them. Now, this leads us right into a massive vulnerability that good people walk into every single day: the desperate instinct to over-explain ourselves. We mistakenly think that if we just lay out our logic or our good intentions clearly enough, the other person will finally understand and act fairly. We assume an explanation is going to bridge the gap and bring them back to a place of mutual respect. But here is why explaining fails so miserably against a dirty player. When you justify your actions, you are literally handing over your authority and inviting them to judge your reasoning. Even worse, you are exposing your priorities and your fears. If you explain exactly why a certain passive-aggressive comment bothered you, you've just handed them a blueprint of your insecurities. They aren't listening to understand you, they are listening to extract material. You're handing them the exact angles they need to attack you later. So instead of constantly defending your intentions, embrace this absolute gem of a truth. Silence offers no surface to attack. Silence cannot be edited, it cannot be misquoted, and it cannot be selectively remembered by a manipulator. What remains unsaid simply cannot be weaponized against you. It operates entirely differently. It's like a shield of blank space. Remember, true authority rarely explains itself. It announces decisions.
All right, so how do we actually apply this? This brings us to our main focus, and it's the chillingly effective psychology of the delayed response. In conflicts, we so often mistake speed for confidence. We think we need to fire back immediately to look strong, but dirty players rely entirely on urgency. They push you for quick answers and hot emotions because momentum strips away your ability to make deliberate choices.
Let's map it out like a tactical sequence. First, you get the provocation. They try to trigger that immediate reaction with a sudden accusation or an unreasonable demand. But instead of jumping right in, you insert the pause. Because they are completely conditioned to control the situation through pace. This intentional withholding just shatters their entire script. Suddenly, the active vacuum of your silence forces the pressure right back onto them, and their mind starts racing with anxiety, trying to fill the gap.
It really all comes down to this one simple number: 0. 0 is the exact amount of immediate emotional feedback you owe someone who is playing a dirty game. When you delay, you completely flip the dynamic. You turn them into the performer. You just sit back and gather intelligence while they leak their true intentions through their own impatience. Intentional withholding absolutely maximizes your leverage.
Once you've mastered the tactical pause, you can combine it with our next major strategy, the undeniable power of simply walking away. Look, a manipulator's control relies entirely on your continuous participation. If you aren't playing, they have no game. So what actually happens when you realize the deck is stacked, the game is rigged, and you just stop playing?
When you completely remove yourself, you instantly deny them the attention and reinforcement they crave. Without your presence, their narrative totally collapses. They have no immediate behavior from you to twist or use as fuel. It breaks their dependency on your reactions and leaves them drowning in uncertainty and internal second-guessing. They are left entirely alone in the aftermath, wondering if they overplayed their hand, or if you've finally caught on to their whole scheme. Which brings us to this incredibly powerful realization: power does not need to argue. Sometimes it simply exits. We are so conditioned to think that walking away is a surrender, right? Like it's a sign that we lost the argument or that we were too weak to stand our ground. Actually, scratch that. It is the exact opposite. Walking away is a profound signal of self-sufficiency. It proves to them that your outcomes do not depend on their validation. It is the ultimate flex of choice.
So, strategic ambiguity, the tactical pause, and the willingness to disengage, all of these tactics culminate in the ultimate Machiavellian goal of this explainer. You are elevating yourself to the point of becoming completely untouchable. You're doing this by fundamentally changing the context of the interaction and dictating the terms of access.
To get there, you have to make a vital paradigm shift. The exhausting myth is believing you have to win every single exchange, right every wrong, and force a fair resolution out of an intrinsically unfair person. It's draining. The untouchable reality, on the other hand, is about quiet alignment and selective engagement. Instead of bleeding your mental and emotional energy fighting on their terms, you shape the context. You choose to become completely unreadable.
Which brings us to the final truth of the matter. True power is cost. When your reactions are measured, your explanations are minimal, and access to you is highly restricted, you become incredibly expensive to deal with. Manipulators are opportunistic by nature. They look for easy targets. When you master this, you don't even have to defeat dirty players. They simply stop targeting you because manipulating you yields absolutely zero return on their investment.
So, I want to leave you with a final provocative question to really sit with today. Are you trying to win the fight, or are you ready to become untouchable? Are you going to keep bleeding your energy playing by their rigged rules, or will you step out of the game entirely and elevate beyond their reach? Think about it, apply these tools, and just watch the dynamic shift. Thanks so much for joining me for this.
Welcome to the